Welcome back to our channel and Sandcastle tip of the day. Today's tip, we're going to show you how we cut these arches out on our water goddess. These arches are going to be huge. There's going to be a lot of weight that gets transferred over these platforms to the other platforms on either end. And this one's going to be stretching the capabilities of this sand pretty much all the way. So stick with us and see how this turns out, see if we actually accomplish our goal. Let's get right to it. I just removed the formwork off of the water goddess and it's stable, and now I think I'm going to try to relieve some of the weight and start to put in where I think the arches go to be able to recycle the sand to essentially finish the pound up. I need the sand. So we're going to score the surface on either side so that when we hand pack in between these two blocks of sand, they act as one and they're integral with each other. Very important to do this so that I can transfer all the weight from this part of the sculpture gets transferred into the other part of the sculpture. It really needs to happen that way for it to stand and to hold and to be strong. I'm using moist sand and I'll be packing it in between. Based upon my artwork sketch, I'm going to start to draw lines for the alignment of the arches, and I can start to relieve some of the sand and reuse it on this sculpture. I think I will do the center ones first because I think they'll be independently standing and help fill in the gap between the body and the head portion of the sculpture. I've taken a first pass at laying out the arches, and I think I'm going to make 2 arches in the center instead of 3, because these 2 have to be so large because of the span between the 2 platforms that I think the energy is just going to be better if I take the 3 in the middle and turn them to 2. We're going to hand pack in these zones right in here. And we'll hand pack this one after we take the plywood out. But these zones will help create a nice flow line to the piece and give it a little more structural girth at the center platform. I'm starting to cut out the arches to recycle sand and fill in this gap up here so that I can get the load to transfer all the way over to the main pile and have a good chunk of mass up there to accept the load. And this is good wet sand, and it's pretty solid, so I feel pretty good about this. I don't think it's going anywhere. Well, I'm just continuing to work the arches, the big ones, and I guess I'll start on the small ones on top just to reduce the weight and pick up some more sand. And I'm just trying to find kind of the biggest shapes at first. So I'm more interested in harvesting sand than really doing much more at this time, and keeping it structurally stable while I do it, so I can finish the tail pound up, which is in the back, and start to find the transition from her as a humanoid or god into the organic aqueduct. Interesting stuff. I'm working on what I consider one of the more important elements to this sculpture is getting this aqueduct to transition into water or water goddess or a combination of the two. And how it breaks apart and becomes the goddess is really going to either make or break this piece. So I'm taking extra time to just work through it and think about it and make sure that I get it right so that this piece is truly unique and I'm proud of it. You know, I want to really feel good about it when I'm done. I've put layout lines, and I've got one at the arch, the center of the arch, and one at the center of the buttress, and then one equally spaced in between. And that represents the center lines of all of the arches for the upper part of her aqueduct-like body. I feel like I have the confidence to do these incredible spans because of the weight test I did on the bridge from the castle project. If you missed that tip of the day video, we put 65 pounds at mid-span for about a 12-inch span bridge, and it held the 65 pounds of weights. So I'm just going to try to go and stretch the medium to its extremes with this one. And that's the idea. Grow, move on. I've got these laid out. And I guess I'm just going to stand back and look at it and go, do I have them where I want them? And adjust them to make sure they're in the right place. We got the first cut through to go through, and it seems to be quite stable. And there's a lot more cut through in to do, and we're going to harvest some sand and try to get these pieces of plywood out. It's going to be, I guess, the bigger challenge now, is to figure out how to get those out without causing a lot of chaos. I want to do a couple of more layout lines. And what I mean by layout lines is there's an element in these arches where the articulation sticks out and creates a real nice little corbel-like look. And I want to capture that in this, and I need to lay those out before I cut too much of these openings away so I can use the sand that's there to create them. I'm making notches in this to kind of preserve the layout for where these architectural features are going to go. And these notches will essentially remind me to preserve that chunk of sand and to extend it into the center, if that makes any sense. This is going to be a bit challenging to get this board out. I probed in there and found that there's still some pretty moist sand in there, so I think I'm going to let it sit for another day and just make sure it's solidified before I gnaw in there and take it out. Now what I did do is I put about a ½ inch to an inch of sand underneath the board, and what I'm going to do is scrape all that out and literally drop the board straight down and then pull it out, slide it out, and it should come out pretty easily, and it should work out just fine. Scratch my fingers, and then I'll pack in some sand where the board was, and we'll be done with the board removal. Inspector Scruffy, we're making good progress on this aqueduct. Do you want to do an inspection? Sign our card off for a progress inspection? And here's how it's going. I'm still harvesting sand from the arches. and I was able to get one cut through. And I'll probably have to go in the backyard and sift some sand. I have some ideas for what I want to do with it right in this area of her. And you know, I need waves, material for waves, and I need her arms to appear. So there's definitely more sand needed, and I don't want to hurry the removal of the sand on the arches. I want to make sure that it's had a chance to set. I'm taking these arches all the way through, methodically shaving them and finding daylight on the other side. I'm starting to get some of these cut through, and I'm just gonna keep on working it and enlarging them and refining them as we go. If you enjoyed how we created the aqueduct arches on this tip of the day, smash the like button. Remember to subscribe, ring that bell. You don't want to miss the next Sandcastle tip of the day regarding this water goddess. We'll see you soon. Bye.